Oh, hello and welcome. This is the this is the 66th episode of Audionautic ADSN. Absolutely lovely to have you here. Somewhat is away. He's sitting himself on the beach somewhere, hopefully not lurking in the comments because that brother needs a rest. But yes, my name is Curtis. Thank you. Yes, thank you ever so much for joining us. I am here with Eon Lake. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm all very excited. I've got my live desk over here. I'm going to actually do my first gig at the weekend. Been a long time coming.
Is that the Where Foxman?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I've been doing lots of practice, but trying to convince myself because there's this urge to go, right, I'm playing live. I must do lots. I must be playing. So hang on a minute. What's it all about, mate? Come on. What do we always say? It's all about the music, right?
It's about the music.
So you do only what is needed, and you don't get carried away and go, put a cape on and go all Rick Wakeman over everything. No, keep it cool. Don't get excited. Just play the songs. But yeah, I'm good. This is the part of the week where things start to improve for me.
It's always there.
Then we have this, and then it's downhill to the weekend.
Always the way. I mean, you're in for an exciting weekend. Everyone's doing it. I think it's the one in New York happening at the same time. I believe that's correct, right?
I wasn't aware of York.
No, New York. So Survey Channel, Bendu, and they've all got theirs.
I mean, man, I would love to go to that. I thought it was a bit later on.
Oh, okay, all right. Maybe I'm mistaken on that regard.
I have to stab myself in the eyes every time I see it because it really bugs me that I can't go. I'd love to see those guys play, especially both Survey Channel and Bendu. And Tom Ragsdale Assault Rooms, he was brilliant the last time I saw him. Yeah, I mean, any one of those would be worth the entry price for me.
Well, there you go. Right. That's what you need. It's lovely. We've got some people in the chat. It's wonderful. I am trying to flick through everything here. Usually, some Walker and I are the ones we are halving the responsibility. We're going today. It's all on me pushing the buttons. We have to see. But some Walker is, in fact, he is everywhere.
He is everywhere.
It's nice to have you here, brother. You're having fun.
Keep your eyes out for him.
He'll pop up. There we go. And Survey Channel helped us out here. He said, no, the one in New York is actually in October. So that makes sense. Hello, Survey Channel. It's nice to have you here. Also seen Abby in the chat as well, which is always nice.
So when I log to this week, though, it's not all about me, is it?
Well, it is all about you. You are the one that runs Audionautic. Everything is. This show is nothing without you. No, we're all good. It's been busy at this end. It's been insane. And I'm just getting through to the end of the month, and then we can kind of quiet down a little bit.
Is that actually going to happen?
I hope so. I mean, like I can dream, right? You got to have a dream.
Well, you had a mad one last week, I seem to remember.
It's just that time of year. It's that time of year, and it's summer coming to the end of term, that kind of thing. But it's been. I've found pockets. It's all been about. I've realized that it's not all about this space, and it's not all about what you can do here. There's this amazing thing that you can do where you can just plug headphones in, not worry so much about gear and everything like that, and then just go mix somewhere. So I've been doing a lot of that because the sun's been shining. I've been going out, sitting on a park bench somewhere, and just mixing lots of project files from my previous live streams. Yeah. So some Warper, if you're listening, there'll be lots of tracks in your drive or in your inbox by the time you get back for mastering. Welcome back to reality.
Welcome back, yeah.
Exactly.
It's good to get inspiration and get out and about. You can't write songs about life if you don't live it, right?
Exactly. If you get stuck in the routine of trying things over and over and doing the same thing over and over and over again, I don't feel you really grow. And everything is about growth, and so it's always fun to see. That is something we might touch upon in our round robin today. But what are we talking about? What are we talking about today?
We're doing the usual things. We're going to talk about some new releases of software and equipment. It's mainly software though this week, isn't it?
It is. It's a very software-heavy week. We got new plugins from Spitfire, from Native Instruments, and Arturia. There's a lot of plugins this week. And in a marketing minute, we're having a look at Tidal for a little while. Having seen what they're doing, they're finally joining the 21st century, so to speak. And then in our round robin, we'll be having a look at perfectionism versus authenticity, inspired by John Hopkins, who you're a massive fan of.
Oh yeah, big fan, me.
Exactly. Thanks everyone in the chat for joining us once again. It's lovely to have you here. We'll get cracking more than anything else. We'll get cracking before anything goes through. The first up for today, we have got a brand new Spitfire Labs, another periodical coming out from Spitfire Labs. If you don't know Spitfire Labs, wonderful company. And this is their, I want to say Julian pipe. I want to say that. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's how I would say it, I think. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, it's happened now. We've said it now. So yeah. So yes, we have the Julian pipes coming in. It's a wonderful set. I'll tell you what, I'll play the sound selection and then we'll go through and we'll talk about it. So hang on. Drones are plenty, methinks.
That's a vibe, isn't it?
It is a little bit of a vibe. I think we were talking a couple of weeks ago about the notion of organic sounds now coming into the VST realm and how they keep coming better and better and better and better. I mean, I've never experienced the real life Celtic Julian pipe, but that sounds pretty fucking pipey to me, as far as
yeah. I mean, they say it's like the Irish bagpipes, don't they? And I've never heard them before. I don't think, anyway. And yeah, that's kind of what I expect.
I did download them earlier today. I didn't have a chance to make a little video or anything like that, but it is one of those plugins where I think there's about 8 different presets, and it's a very narrow band for the piano roll, so to speak. And it's definitely more rather than variance, if that makes sense. You've got more sounds for less of a variance, but particularly the low drony sounds that have come through. If anyone happens to be a fan of ambient, that is a nice way to go in that regard.
Yeah, pull stretch it a bit.
It's all about the pull stretch. Survey Channel's less impressed. I can't say I'm a fan of that. Tell us, Matt, why?
I know where he's coming from with this, because normally with bagpipes, apart from a couple of pieces, apart from the name, a bag of pipes, I just love that because that's what it is. I'm not a fan of the sound particularly, and as this is kind of a similar thing, it's the sort of thing that I would usually go, it's not really the sort of tone that I would use, and then I'd probably go off and make a synthesizer sound like a bagpipe, because it's not that different. But I think, I don't know. I mean, I was reading the description on the page, and it says that it's rarely sampled, and I think, well, is that because it doesn't really lend itself to other styles? And then it said it's played with the traditional Celtic flourishes, and I'm thinking, does that mean you're not going to be able to do something different with it, you know. So I find myself curious about that. You know, can you twist it? Can you do something else?
It's like if the MIDI patterns themselves are like trills on a violin, for example, they always come out the same no matter what you're doing. Is that what you're getting on that?
Well, I mean, if it's sampled with it, or if it's just with notes and it's the way that they're played that add these flourishes, I don't know. But I'm a fan of the instruments that are quite flexible, you know. And it just it makes me wonder if this one is particularly flexible. I mean, unless you're scoring the next river dance or something, are you going to have a use for it, sort of thing? And does that explain why it's, you know, not sampled very often as an instrument, because it's just too evocative of like Celtic folk music?
That's fair enough. I
or
mean,
is it just a challenge being thrown down? Like, can you do some gangster rap with this?
I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try, that's for sure. Gangster rap might be a bit of a stretch. You know me, I'm not very ghetto, but with a very middle class British accent. But yes,
what trap was it?
Yeah, trap. Well, I mean, I think there is a space for it. I think always with the beauty of Spitfire. I think the beauty of Spitfire is that it is sampled to a high level, which I think, you know, especially when it comes to these traditional instruments, when it comes to more organic instruments and things like that, because they're multi-sampled to a high degree, you have a wonderful bass line. And at least you have a bass line, which then it's a sound design session. Like you always say, like, you don't necessarily have to always sit down and just write a song first and foremost. But in that similar vein of making a challenge, in that similar vein of turning something on its head, so to speak, you know, it's not very common. It is a different sound. How can you then take that as a bass line and then apply an effects chain to it in what degree, or build a chain behind it to create something that is completely off the chain? Off the chain.
Yeah. I mean, if you see Survey Channel's comment is talking about how the dissonant qualities of the drone are not something that appeal to him. And I know exactly what it means. I think if I was to do something creative with it, I would probably want to try and separate the notes a bit, so that the intervals aren't decided for you in that dissonant way. You know, you could do something different with it. I mean, I've always said I think there's something quite magical about a real thing vibrating and making sound that way, you know, like pianos and so on. You know, there's something about something that creates music and sound by vibrating, and the way that we hear with our ears and so on. So maybe you could detach that quality, you know, using the library, and do something different with it. I see it now almost like a challenge.
Yeah.
Is it free?
It is free. Labs is always free. This is their next installment. I think I think along that, because it's not sampled that often, and maybe it doesn't have such a mass appeal. Maybe that is why it's going for the free stuff, you know. But fuck it, it's free. Add it to the arsenal and see what you can do with it. Those low end drums
with the sound, repitch it or something, and see what you can do. I'd like to hear anyone who can come out with something non-folk music with it.
Okay. So hang on. Non-folk music. How far are we going? If it's okay, for example, folk trap.
Well,
for example,
oh, that's such an overused genre. Folk trap. Well, I think the further you can go with it, the better. You know, it's I don't know. Perhaps I'm being a bit childish, but I almost see it as a challenge now. Where it's like, here is a very definite sound that's of a very particular sort of niche thing. Can you do something completely different with it?
Okay, I'll take on that challenge.
You up for that?
I'm down. I want to see what I can do. So, I will take it. I'll make some instances. I'll throw it into Ableton, and I'll do something, and I'll see what I can come up with. Maybe like a little vignette or something like that.
Awesome.
Abby's got the same idea. Challenge accepted.
Abby's in too. All right.
Here we go, guys. If anyone wants to get involved, this is a spearheaded operation. Little vignette, 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, or whatever. Pop it into the Audionautic Discord.
20-minute epic, whatever. Let us know. Send us your work.
Exactly. The J-Bell is also in the chat with us today, so overused. It's a trap. I think that was a joke, but we'll have to.
It's the trap. Yeah,
it's the trap, isn't it?
A lot of people have been caught in that.
Exactly. And Survey Channel is with us on this one. The lab stuff is definitely great.
Yeah, it's always a quality product, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just the experimentation and the exploration. I feel like that's what they want. They want to give something to producers in order to do something like that. Did you just see that?
Exactly. There you go. New Braveheart incoming. Yeah. I mean, if you've got a sync opportunity or a job commission like that for something Celtic, you know, jobs are good one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Jobs are good. So we have more on the horizon. We have more folk inspired instrumentation incoming. Before we do that, I just wanted to say this show is brought to us by the patrons. Thank you ever so much for being a part of this. We have a few of our patrons in the chat. We've got Survey Channel here today. Abby's in the chat as well. Thank you for your support. If you are listening to this on Spotify, or if you are on Apple Podcasts, or indeed you're watching this back, then please, and you like what we do, consider becoming a patron. Pledges start at as little as $2. And it allows me and Eon Lake and Sunwarper, when he gets back from Hawaii, to keep doing more of this. We keep going from strength to strength. And yeah, we really appreciate your support. So thank you very much indeed. Eon Lake? He's here.
I'm still here. No, big thank you to all our patrons. And don't forget, you know, you do have the opportunity to come on here and talk with us. We do like to drag our patrons on whenever they agree to come on. So that we can share news and ideas and so on, and it's more fun than a chat even. Yeah. But any support is support, and we appreciate everything everyone does, including just listening to us.
Very much so. For patrons themselves, the StreamYard link is actually in the Patreon group chat on Twitter if you wanted to join us for today for the round robin. Or any. I mean, we have no Sunwarper this week, so everything is anarchy essentially. So you can just come and say hey. There was something else I was going to say, but I forgot because I'm so on the ball today. But yeah, thank you very much indeed. We'll have to see. Keeping on moving through the notion of organic instruments and some form of Celtic themery for this particular instance this week. Native Instruments has also come out with the Irish harp, which is quite exciting, I suppose. We did have some form of pipes, and now we have a stringed instrument. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
A little bit more music. Well. Okay. Dare I say maybe a bit more positivity coming through?
Yeah. I think that sounds a lot more. It sounds a lot more flexible, actually. I mean, obviously, it's a plucked instrument, so it has like guitar-like qualities. It's not a million miles from a lot of the modular stuff you get from people using rings in it without putting a signal into it. Yeah. For some reason, that made me think hip hop and lo-fi and stuff. So quite a heavy, detuned, dusty beat, but with a contrasting, light, sparkly bit of melody or something. I don't know. I think that's got a lot of potential, really. And I don't know. It also made me think of an article I read once from a guy called Hallucinogen who made a really hefty bass line. Apparently, it was a cello part. I don't know how he managed to make it sound like that, but it was pretty good. So you could also try pitching it down and seeing what it sounds like as a bass, because it's got a very plucky quality to it. But I think you think with harp it's going to be quite cheesy, like you'll hear a strum and it'll be like an angel just had an idea or something. Do you know what I mean? But actually, just hearing a normal sort of melody playing, it seems a bit more doable.
I just now got the mental image of just an angel just having a light bulb moment, and just falling off their stool.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Could you do something with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I'm not as intrigued by a challenge in this one. I think that this one sits very much more in the quote unquote the norm of kind of sound design. Lots of plucks and synthesized plucks are very common, especially in lots of EDM music and stuff like that. And that's all very well and good. I think it would fit into more stuff. But then it's always, again, I come back to it. What are you doing with that? Where are you going to sound design with that? And
pure tone, isn't it? Very clear, pure tone. It will reverb nicely.
It would. It's just a shame there's no decent reverbs around. Who knows? But yeah, no. Survey Channel is in agreement with this one. This one he's liked, and then perhaps maybe even use on the new pole sign stuff. I would love that, Matt. I want to see more pole sign stuff. And yeah, very much so.
Anyone's playing a drinking game at home, some nobody called Sunwarp has just turned up in the chat. Super passive. Yes, we mentioned it. Take a drink if you're playing at home.
Very much so. But no, I see if you could take that and then run it around, I'm hearing some form of, when I was listening to that, I was some sort of slapback delay with a little bit of bit crush. That could be quite fun. Like you say, it's a very nice clean tone. It's a very
dirty it up a bit.
Exactly.
His heart came out of a skip. Out in a skip.
Just an angel just fell to earth, just landed in a skip, and then just covered in banana peel and stuff like that. That is the only way to do it. So, but yeah, completely free. This one's from Native Instruments, and I don't know if they coincided. We had this discussion just before going on. St. Paddy's Day is gone. Yeah, it's nothing to do with the time of year.
No, I'll do it.
Yeah, completely. But it is free if you have native access, or if you have Native Instruments, go get it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's your favorite Audionautic price band, isn't it? Well, you can really experiment then, can't you? Because it doesn't cost you anything to. So
exactly,
it's creativity.
Do you have Native Instruments?
No, I have used some of the stuff in the free player.
Right.
Which isn't it the case that usually in the free player you could have a sort of simplified version of it, but if you've got the full contact, you've got more control and perhaps a bigger library and stuff like that.
Yeah, essentially, that's how it works. Yeah. I've just checked it up here. The complete 14 is down from $600 to $300, so it's 50% off at the moment, which we're going to get in. I mean, there's lots of these companies doing it. We've got Arturia coming up in a moment. They've also got a whole one. They've got their package deal. Waves do it.
The point, though, I mean, this is a regular thing for most of them. They're on a yearly cycle. It would be a bit silly, really, to pay full price for any of them. You just get to know when they're on sale.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of dip in and out of them when they come in the right place, that kind of thing.
Because that's a hell of a difference, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Again, without jumping the gun, we get into Arturia in a minute, but the Arturia ones I really would like. There's some really decent sounds there. I'm just waiting for the stars to align in terms of paycheck and sale.
Yeah. If it's meant to be, it will be.
If it's meant to be, it will be. Exactly. Okay, I'll tell you what then. We'll move on to Arturia, seeing as we've kind of stumbled across it already. Guys in the chat, let us know if either of those labs or the Native Instruments speaks to you or anything like that, listening back as well. Be really curious to hear what you think, because they are getting better with all these releases. They are getting better in each and every single time. Yeah,
and to my mind, there's a limit to what you can do with samplers and electronics, whatever modeling you're using. It's good to get some organic sounds in there somewhere just to shake things up. I find it really helps me give me a frame of reference in a mix to have a natural sound in there somewhere, even if it's messed about with. It helps me understand what everything else sounds like in contrast. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it makes total sense. I think there's something to be said as well for taking something that's purely synthesized and taking something that's multi-sampled and putting them together. For the harp, take the harp, but then combine that with a pluck from, say, Vital or Serum or something like that, and then mashing those two together, it creates some really interesting, just spacey tones more than anything else.
Stack your sounds. Yeah, we like the vertical.
We do. Is it even a track if it doesn't have 90 channels on it?
Yeah, well, that's it. You're two maximalist producers. How they like lots of tracks.
I'm trying so hard to be better in that regard. I'm trying so hard to be.
Yeah, me too.
Like when I do these live streams, I say, right, 16 channels. That's it. And that's a lot on the grand scheme of things. But
yeah, it's come from live with me as well. It's like, well, everything's got to earn its place. It's got to be there's got to be a reason for it, not just an opportunity or a track.
Yeah.
Used.
I don't know about you, but when you go from the live setting and then you go back to the production side of it, you're like, oh, I'll just double this up and pan this here. I'll just do this. I'll just do that.
Yeah, all of a sudden, sounds good. Then 8 will sound better, surely.
It's never a dull day.
8 is better, man. I don't really think that.
I do. Survey Channel got some interesting. I want Curtis to make some techno blues using Uilleann pipes. Okay. Second challenge. All right. Maybe I can.
That sounds like he tore up 3 lots of bits of paper with things on. that with that. Oops. There goes my pop shield.
All right. I'll tell you what. If I'm in a mood of taking challenges this week, I take Eon Lake's one to make a little vignette using the Uilleann pipes in a weird way, and then why not techno blues, turn it into something from Survey Channel? That could be quite fun. Watch this space. Shall we move on?
Yes,
move on. We have got
moving.
Yeah, perhaps the bigger news of the week, the most well known, I want to say, perhaps. Arturia has released the FX Collection 4, which is big news for people who are a fan of Arturia. If I zoom in here so we can see, that comes quite nicely, actually. I can also do that. Oh, not on this occasion. We'll do that.
It's called effects as well. Right, okay.
So they have updates to everything that they've already got. It's going out now for €300. Reduced from €500 for now until that through. There's four new boxes, so to speak, making the total collection now 30. They have the rotary CLS 222. They have the distortion, the disc cold fire, which Abby was playing around with just before we went live, and it sounded crunchy. It sounded really crunchy. Very interesting. The classic filter MS-20 on there
We
as well. Yeah. That was a freebie at New Year's for Arturia, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I missed it. Well,
that's a shame. You're gonna have to spend €300 and get this now, aren't you?
yeah. So they've got like an effects collection that's like the V collection, isn't it? So they've got their range of synthesizers that are very well modeled, and then the effects like this that are, from what I hear, also very well modeled on classic boxes.
Yeah, essentially. They also, just for clarity, also have the Rev LX24, which you correctly identified out of nowhere is based on Lexicon Reverb.
Yeah, and they were the only ones I ever really got fond of. You know, there are a lot of boxes that every recording studio should have, PCM 70s and so on, things like that. But some of them, it was only the Lexicon reverbs that I could really get on with, because there's so many of them. That's even convolution ones, the ones that were modeled, just didn't. They sounded really artificial to me. But the Lexicon ones always worked in some way or more than one way. So yeah, I would definitely be interested in that.
So okay, that brings me to my next question for you. Do you ever see a use for a rotary?
Well, yeah. You see, the thing is, I mean, I've recorded Hammonds a few times with Leslie's, and it is kind of fun to stick stuff through them that isn't supposed to. So I definitely did some track laying where we'd reamp and we'd play it back and patch it out into the live room and run like vocals through the Leslie, like backing vocals, and it you can get a tremolo effect and movement on them if you mic it in stereo, and guitars as well, just to get to see if it's any good, when you've got time. So I don't know that I would necessarily want to buy one, but to have a plug-in suite where there's lots of good effects and that's in there, yeah, I'd be messing around with it. I would be, and putting things in it that aren't supposed to go through it. Definitely.
That specifically are not meant to be going through it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's more fun to me, anyway.
Yeah, totally, completely. I think Abby is echoed something along those lines. It says that once you're in the Arturia ecosystem, the upgrades that aren't free are super cheap.
That's good. Yeah, because it's not cheap to get in, but it's proper stuff. But it's good to know that once you are in, that you don't have to continue paying through the nose. That it's reasonable.
I suppose it's a bit like the Ministry of Sound in that regard, or trying to get into the clubs. Once you're in through the door, and you don't have to buy any more beer, you can just buy water.
Yeah, it's only £8 a bottle.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I was listening to, like I said, Abby's. Abby put up a work in progress up on our channel on Discord, and it was using the disc Coldfire, and it sounded like a really lovely kind of crunchy
dual engine distortion.
It sounds quite sexy.
Just those words alone are enough to get me interested.
I've often thought about it. I know that we have a couple of people in the community who swear by Arturia. I know Hydrofighter for one. Yeah. He has all the synthesizers in the V collection. Kind of want it.
Abby, do you use Soundtoys Decapitator? And if so, how does Coldfire compare? That's what I really want to know, because I love the Decapitator. And as some Warper was saying the other week, we like the Devil Lock as well. How would this one stack up? I don't know. Besides which, I mean, the thing about distortion, saturation, overdrive, and so on, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. I mean, look at all the guitar pedals that have their own sort of character. Maybe you just need them all. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe. I have a friend called Jack.
Accurately, I need them all.
Yeah, well, this is it. Right? So I live by the philosophy of my friend Jack, and my friend Jack is always, why not both? If you've got a choice of one thing or another, his answer is always, why not both? And I swear by it. If you've got a choice, the disc Coldfire or the Soundtoys Decapitator,
Yeah.
Why not both?
Abby's put one on each.
Exactly. Yeah. Abby's commented no, and I'm not sure.
I'll just have to check it myself.
You have to go put it through. Maybe we could buy a subscription and just share it, and just a quarter, or like a third of the year you have it, a third of the year I have it, a third of the year someone has it, and then we just try and do everything we can to just get as much use out of it while we can. That's totally not illegal.
I like the idea it would force her, like it's distortion quarter. So for this quarter a year, I'm making only distorted music. The rest of the year I'll relax a bit, but that would be the good outcome for me.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I suppose that creates some form of limitation externally, which will allow you to do some other stuff in that regard.
Useful comment from Abby. She thinks Arturia does 30-day free demos. So if you do need to compare and see if it's worth your while, seems easy enough to do so.
Or again, in a more extreme form of that, you get the free 30-day free demo and make everything with the Arturia plugin and then never use them again.
Yeah, it's distortion month.
Yeah, exactly. David, ASF Stripe is in the house. Hey, David, how you doing, man? More jams going on over on his YouTube channel, which is always exciting. It's always exciting. Very informative. How are you, David? It's nice to see you here. Thank you ever so much for joining us. That is all of the news that we've got for this week. But if we've missed anything, is there any reason for me to use the breaking news banner, Eon Lake?
No, unless you want to, say that there isn't any breaking news. Because I know you like the button.
Could you use a breaking news? Yeah, there we go.
Live your best life. Hit the button if you want to.
We'll try. I will sequester myself for this week, and we'll move across to the marketing minute, where this is just a quick one for now, but we can see that Tidal has joined the 21st century only a few years after Spotify has done it. Spotify did it early back in 2017, and Tidal have just done it themselves. I'm using my one to see here. You can now
Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's all coming the same way, but on Tidal now they have created an artist hub. So this morning this was blank, but now you can add photos, you can add artist bios, and you can edit things like how people see your things and everything that goes up there. So basically, because no one listens to me on Tidal, Annabelle D is the top one, but you can change these up and down if you wanted to, that kind of thing.
So they deliberately put like your most popular one at the top as they sort of put a rough sort of page together for you.
Yeah, so they kind of throw a rough page towards you, and then you can kind of like alter it as you see fit. Right now it's limited, but they are looking to expand it even more. It's nice to see Tidal join the 21st century in that regard. Like I say,
aren't they just with the high bandwidth, high quality, unique selling point? Is that Tidal?
Yeah. They have a 3-tier system. If you're in the United States, they have a 3-tier system. If you're outside the United States, you have a 2-tier system, where you can play it for free if you're in the United States, but also then you can have 2 different subscriptions. One of them, the top one, is like high fidelity. Where is it here? Where you can do things like it's called the I'm reading off the thing here. It's called the Hi-Fi Plus membership. Master quality authenticated recordings, Dolby Atmos music, 3D audio, and yeah, it's meant to be a higher quality. I don't know.
It's just funny because in a way they seem like they're leading with their USP in the way that they set the platform up, and then obviously, yeah, these are good developments. Nothing bad to say about it, but obviously it's like way behind others doing the same thing. It's just funny how they're quite advanced in one respect and not so much in another.
Well, I wonder. I completely agree with you. I wonder if the extent to which, okay, so that UPI, right? I'm sorry, USP, the unique selling point, right, is high fidelity music, right?
Mm.
But
None of
if
those
you're,
glossy MP3s, although obviously Bandcamp has FLAC. And
yeah, I'm curious as to, if you're listening on a pair of Beats, for example, just like your bog standard headphones, and you're blasting it, because don't forget that louder means better. I'm
definitely, as
wondering,
far as your ears are concerned, yeah.
exactly. I'm wondering the extent to which that unique selling point is desired, if that makes sense. Like sinophiles might, no, that's the wrong phrase. It's not sinophiles. That's people who like sound and people who are interested in sound, and that might be something. But I don't know the extent to which that's in the mainstream. How much people really care about that? A lot of people, younger kids I interact with, they're listening on their phones, for example.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's interesting.
maybe there's a market for all of it, and you don't need to pay for hi-fi subscriptions if you're a kid, but there are certain maybe more beardy audiophiles that definitely do want that whilst they're sat in an armchair with their best headphones on. I don't know.
I think for sure.
I
was doing a bit of research. It is growing. It's nowhere near Spotify or Apple Music. I think Apple Music, Spotify is around about 14 million visitors per month. Whereas you've got Tidal, which is a much lower, around about 6 or 7. So it's well behind. But last year, for example, it was the most used streaming service in Poland, of all places.
Really? I mean, we've commented before about potential overhead issues for Spotify because of the huge amount of content that they're having to host in order to stream. And you think, well, that goes double, possibly triple if you have a much higher fidelity recording. So any data storage issues and so on will be even more for them if they do get to anything like the same size.
That's interesting. I'll tell you what, I'll come back to that in a sec. We got a few things in the chat. So Servi says he doesn't think he's on Tidal anymore. It's interesting. Matt, did you have to, if you're uploading through a distributor, are you removing yourself from Tidal automatically? Or is it just, it's curious, that one, because as far as I understand it, it's always been a case of you just go everywhere. Be interested. Frequency channel, frequency control center. Sorry, is frequency channel. Frequency control center is in the chat. Hey, Paul, it's nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Back from holiday, apparently, something along those lines. But yes, and then we finally have ASF Stripe. Don't we think Apple will likely grow? I'll throw that one straight to Eon Lake. We're coming back to what you were saying before.
Maybe they will. I personally prefer them, but that's just a personal thing. I'm not really going to give you a concise argument about what that's about. I think it's more convenience for me than anything else. I think most people prefer the Spotify interface and so on, and the features. It just seems like they seem to have got the UI done better than a lot of people. But you need competition, to keep anyone honest. It's surprising how many people disregard Apple Music because, I mean, even as a relatively small percentage of the market, that's still millions and millions of users. So, if you're going to share songs with people, share a link that links to all platforms is my advice. But yeah, I don't know. Spotify seems to be having more and more trouble these days, and it's getting more and more expensive for them. Will other things come along? I don't know. Maybe there'll be a fight about that. But the part of me thinks that this is just another stage. You had the old days of just physical medium. Then you had the MP3s and illegal file sharing. And then it moved into streaming. It just makes me wonder what's next. Maybe it's a completely different thing, a different business model. we've talked about that before as well. I think there's probably only so far you can go with streaming and the amount of new music that's being made and so on.
Well, I think it's curious to see the growth and trajectory of Spotify in that regard, which why I think it'll become the new Twittoxtagram, basically. The notion of
that name.
maybe I should, but I think Spotify are definitely leading the way when it comes to like sociability. They're definitely becoming a new social media. I mean, that just seems to be where they're going, and I don't think anyone else has kind of caught up to that yet. And I genuinely, maybe I might be wrong. Maybe I'm being a bit of an ignorant millennial here, but I feel like not enough people care about high fidelity in order to switch to something like Tidal, especially when there's no kind of coexisting user interface in that regard.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
And I don't know if Apple. I know that people who use Apple, my family use Apple, but they also have Apple products. I don't use Apple products, and I don't use Apple.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have their own UPS. UPS. Unique selling point beyond we're just not Spotify. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any big differentiators as far as the actual product goes. I imagine Spotify has a larger library. Although, to be fair, I think both of them are big enough to be useful. But,
I doubt these days that you'd find people on one and not the other, especially with like self-distribution and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, Survey Channel seems to think it's to do with his digital distributor that he switched to, and that for some reason they don't push to Tidal. Mine always have.
How was it, incidentally, Survey Channel, how is it switching to Amuse? How was that for you? We keep talking about it. We haven't done a distribution for 2023 before. Be curious to see how that kind of goes through. Frequency control sensor has been in the darkest Devon doing drum and bass sets and partying. That's what you need. That's exactly how you do the start of summer. Exactly what you need. He also says new music is being uploaded to services is crazy high. Just saw some ridiculous number the other day for some songs uploaded in one day. Yes,
30,000 or something stupid, isn't it? Or 30 million a week. I don't know. It's horrific, whatever the number is. I just think of data centers, just rows and rows of servers getting filled up.
It's almost dystopian. But I mean, that we had this discussion a few weeks ago. That will run out, and the question is, what will come next? Maybe we'll have a look. But yeah,
it all requires energy, unless we come up with some solid state storage system that can power down. I don't know. Energy is going to be a problem too, isn't it?
I agree with that one. It is nice to know that on the other hand, that a Survey Channel, he is on Tidal. So if you are using Tidal, I mean, it's a good way to go. That's why I brought this to the table today. If you are distributing and you're going everywhere, these personal things, these photos and things like that, they make your account much more personalized. And so you can now do it. So we get out and doing it.
Yeah, obviously good changes.
Yeah, obviously good changes. David asked another question. Can we put our music directly onto Apple or Amazon? Kind of related.
I don't think so.
It's all through distribution, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be through distributors, I think.
Let me have a look. If I bring up my distro kit, I wonder if you can. That's TuneCore. I'll have a look. I wonder if you can sequest and choose to not upload. I know you can choose to not upload to things like Snapchat, for example, and YouTube Music and things like that. I don't know if you can choose to not go somewhere. To be honest, I've never really considered it because I figured you might as well be everywhere, no?
Yeah. Well, no, he was asking, can you put things directly on Apple or Amazon? But I mean, I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. I think that's still the gatekeeper situation.
Unless your name happens to be Mr. TuneCore.
Just to come back to what Survey Channel said, he said, "I like it. I got tired of paying DistroKid for my lack of releasing." See,
yeah,
I
know what he means.
I've still found
you can upload as many as you like a year, even if that's 0.
Yeah. I still think it works. I mean, I remember doing TuneCore for a collaboration and CD Baby for a collaboration, and it just I know you can pay per release, but it just in the end of it, I might as well just pay the yearly subscription and upload that way.
Yeah, I thought so too. The one thing that I would look to be avoiding is hassle about tagging and corrections and that kind of faffing about. I've not had any problems so far. I've seen others have big problems. I'm keen to avoid anything like that myself.
I get that. I've had nothing but good things with DistroKid. I know some people have not. I've had nothing but decency with them. I think they're great personally. But it comes down to experience. Yeah. I think it comes down to experience at the end of the day. But yes, these are okay. So Spotify is coming back to the matter at hand. Spotify is increasingly hemorrhaging money, for want of a better phrase. They are yet to turn a profit. They've just laid off a load of people. They've just condensed their podcasting department after pushing podcasts for everything. They're in trouble. We don't know how long they're going to be around. There is also Pandora and Tidal and Apple and Amazon and Deezer. Go beyond them because they're just as valid.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Don't know who's going to survive. Might as well be everywhere.
Or maybe we could just get like the CEOs from each individual one, just put them in a ring and just see which one comes out, and then we'll just all use that.
Now we're getting dystopian. Let's be our survival.
Just them throwing contracts at each other and just like paper cuts and paper cuts coming through. Imagination running. That is dark. Let's move swiftly on before it gets too much darker. Let's move on to something more positive. And move into something a bit more interesting, shall we? We move to our round robin for the day. And this is the part of the show. If any of our patrons wish to join us, please feel free to come and say hi. We love having you on the show. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, lurking's okay, but we do like to talk to you, and you are welcome.
Oh, exactly. We are for those who are listening back, for those who've stumbled across us for new, because we do have a lot of new listeners on our Spotify and our Apple Music. So hi, welcome. It's lovely to have you here. Our round robin is a segment where we take a question to do with music production or something along the lines, be it existential, be it marketing, be it about gear, or anything along those lines. And we put it to the community. And this is, where we're coming through this week. Now, I've found this one today, actually. Struggling this week to find one, but I found one today. And I got inspired by the one only John Hopkins, who I know that you're a big fan of. Is that fair?
Yeah. Definitely.
Very much so. And there was a news article that came out from Music Radar that said John Hopkins spent 4 months perfecting the synth riff for OpenEye's Signal on a 1979 Korg MS-20. Yeah. So much effort into trying to make something sound effortless. Yeah. And that got me thinking. Now, if I can close that and come down here.
Got me thinking, hell no. 4 months on a riff would completely destroy me. But I mean, I admire it and I'm horrified by it in equal measure, I think.
I know. This seems like a pit of perfectionism. Now, John Hopkins is a brilliant human being. There's no question about it. But it did get me thinking about how we as producers and artists, how we strike that balance between getting something that is authentically us and is authentically the best expression of our art that we possibly can. But then how do we balance that with not being perfectionist? Because we know that while it's nice to hit good highs, trying to get something to sound perfect, you're going to spend 4 months perfecting the synth riff. And I mean, some people got it right. The synth is dope. The MS-20 is dope. No one's denying that. No one is denying that.
And it is a great sound. And the other thing is it does sound effortless. But it does grind and mangle and shift and so on in a way that sounds effortless, but apparently it took a long time to get right. Well, I've never done anything like that. Not to that extent. I don't know about you.
No, I don't think 4 months. I mean, as Frequency Control Center says, if only we had that much time. I don't think any of us have that time to do that.
So what's the question then? Perfectionism versus authenticity. So, yeah, what are we asking here?
I want to know how you personally and people in the chat listening along, how are we striking that balance between making sure that something is as authentic and as expressive as it can be for us as our art, but then not spend too much time, not to get too hung up on the notion of what we're writing. Let's not lose and let's not be able to see the wider perspective of things. How do you strike that balance?
Okay, so for me, I think it's about understanding what the limits are. So, for example, perfectionism. I by my nature, am quite a perfectionist, if allowed to be. The upside of perfectionism is attention to detail. The downside of perfectionism, particularly working with something that is created by humans, is you can kill it stone dead. You can take all the vibe, the humanity, the X element out of it, you know. And I learned this a lot while recording live bands. It's just often first or second take is the best, and after that, after a point, if you haven't got it, you're not going to get it, because it's just getting worse and more like, we're not there yet. So it's about understanding what happens when you go too far one way. So if you employ perfectionism too much, you may end up spending 4 months on a synth line. One I love, by the way. Or the other way, authenticity. I mean, that might be like, you know, I want to play more parts. I want to do less editing, you know. But if you go too far with that, it might be, well, I can't be bothered to do it more than once. So the first takes, that'll do. And you don't bother actually refining your ideas to the point where they have more impact. So for me, it always seems to be a trade-off between inspiration and flow and keeping that going, and trying to capture something that is good enough and evolved enough before you start crossing the threshold into it beginning to go a bit stale and a bit flat and a bit uninterested. And it's kind of, so I don't know if you've ever been surfing, but it's kind of like dropping off the back of the wave, you know, where it just carries on without you and you kind of fall off. So for me, I think I'm trying to balance those things. I think also perfectionism is often based in criticism. And I don't think you should be criticizing while you're creating. I strongly believe in separating those functions, you know. So when you're creating, you just make it, you get edit it later, you know. It's not about having an opinion, it's about being connected to it and trying to do justice to whatever's happening, you know, and then coming back to it later. So to a certain extent, I see perfectionism and authenticity being different stages of the process as well. So maybe you want to approach it in the way where you get, see, this is me hedging my bets, where you try and get, you know, the authenticity in the initial idea and recordings and so on, and maybe apply enough perfectionism. But again, you know, we've had conversations before about mixing and having real trouble with things because you just go in too far with it. you know, and focusing on a level of detail that people aren't interested in, when you could be killing a sense of excitement in the music that people would be interested in. You know, you can end up focusing on the wrong thing if you get too granular. So I think it's about starting high up and zoning in as close as you need to, where there's something affecting the whole thing and the impact that it has. You know, if there's a problem there but it's not having an impact, is it really a problem? Yeah. So I think I've managed to not answer that question in about the longest way you can.
I like it. I like it. I think, and also as well, what you've been saying resonates to a lot of people. Survey Channel says Eon Lake nails it for me. That's fair. And then, you know, you get a yep from FCC from that model, and he follows up with it. You know, there's always a middle ground. You have to find the sweet spot that works for you. And just to reiterate for David, authentic to a genre, I suppose. I mean, I was thinking more authenticity to yourself as in artistic expression. How do you remain authentic to you and want to get something that is, you have an idea and you want to put it down, but then, and you want to have something that's exactly like it because that's your expressive and your authentic self, but then don't get caught up in the perfectionism. That's what I was thinking.
Because on that note, I read the same article and it made, I think John works in a different way to me in that he has something that he's striving to get. I think it's got more of a sound in his head that he's trying to get out, whereas I tend to more go like comparing myself. It's ridiculous, but I tend to do things differently where I'm trying to go with something. I think, well, how good can that sound? How can it be better? Rather than I don't hear something and then try and recreate it. I make something that I like and then I go with that. So I think one of those, the reason I mention it is I think one of those is more susceptible to perfectionism than the other. If you've got a sound in your head that you're trying to drag out into the real world, my fear is you could spend the rest of your life and it's no, but it's not quite like I hear it, you know, which is why I don't do that. But yeah, know what the pitfalls of either extreme are and make the choices that work for you and your methods and how you get motivated.
I think there's a headspace to it. I think there's also a workflow space to it as well. There's a tangible methodology to. I think that mainly revolves quite simply with coming back to your project file. As soon as it, for me at least, as soon as it stops being fun, as soon as it stops being something, I'll just put it on ice for a bit and then I'll come back to it. Like if I know where I remember where all my tracks are going, I remember what I'm doing at each track. I can open up a new project file. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll carry on here. You know, I know where I left off. And then I go and add those pieces to make it novel and make it fun again. But by that point, if I've written a solo or something like that, and then I'm like, I'll call it a rough solo because then I can come back to it if I want to. But then inevitably I'll come back to it a couple of days or a week later, and I'm like, So, hey.
I've seen that a lot with guitarists and some other instruments as well, where there isn't pressure, and you're not necessarily going to keep your take. You get in a way you can connect to what it is you want to do a bit more. And when you come back to it and think, right now I'm going to do perfection, you listen to it and you try some stuff and you just think, well, that just seems to have a better feel, you know. I could do some better chops, but I can't sort of get the same sort of vibe or flow.
It's like trying to sneeze. It's like if you're trying to sneeze, it's not going to happen. You know, if you think about sneezing, it's just not going to happen. I mean, and that goes into what Frequency Control Center is saying. He says, great story about Tom Waits and a bass drum. Couldn't get the right sound. Tried everything. Ended up hitting an empty suitcase in a toilet cubicle. Is that the perfectionist authentic sweet spot? I think personally, I feel like it's more about the process. And that's kind of like it's novel and it's different and it's kind of a bit weird. And it's like that's a story. right there. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's the kick drum that you're going to use, and that kind of almost takes the pressure off. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
mean,
you've got-
and if you're working with a real bass drum there, it's surprising the amount of changes you can do and then put it in a song and you can't tell the bloody difference. But if one of the songs has got you banging a suitcase in a, what was it, a shower or something?
in a toilet cubicle, yeah.
A toilet cubicle, that will give you the range of sound. It will give you a bit of different flavor on the album. And sometimes, I don't know, working in that way is a good way of getting you through the fact that you're recording a whole bunch of tracks and they're all beginning to sound a bit the same. And, you know, if you just go a bit crazy with some of this stuff, you can find your enthusiasm. Besides, I suppose I always seen Tom Waits as the kind of guy banging something in a toilet cubicle. That seems pretty him. So for me, that's authenticity.
It makes sense. It makes sense. I think there you go. The allegory of Tom Waits is exactly what I aim to find. That's my survey channel. It makes sense. It makes sense. And then David says perfectionism can be a rabbit hole, much like, or just like modular, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with going down a rabbit hole. I think if you are trying to, I don't know. I know that you're kind of like you don't hear something necessarily in your head and then you try and put it down on the project file or anything like that. I think for those that do, it can get frustrating when something that's in your head and then it doesn't quite come out the same way. But I think you have to go through. I think you have to go through that process. I think you have to go through. You have to really go down that rabbit hole of frustration and anger and, you know, a lack of feeling good enough for what you're doing or whatever the emotions is you derive. You have to go through that and you have to come out the other side, realize that it's not always the best thing to do, because that in its own right is growth as an individual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
It's in a way, what is it? Something from the Dune. Now, the first step of avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. I suppose if you've stuck your foot in it and lost your foot or whatever, you know, it helps you evolve as a producer in a way that you can avoid pitfalls better in future. Definitely. And if you've got time to make mistakes or go down a rabbit hole and go, do you know what, that was non-productive, I'm binning it, then fine, you know. It's all instructive if you approach it with that mindset where you'll learn whatever there is to be learned from what happens.
I get that. Survey Channel says that I aim to be the Tom Waits of electronic music, which is, yeah, that's cool. That's what we want to say. David says, I hate overthinking art, but I understand wanting a certain level of quality. And I think that is the crux of the situation. Yeah. It's especially if you're tracking with hardware and things like that, where everything has to be on point, and maybe less so in this day and age where you can nudge things and chop things up and things like that. But because there is a certain fun aspect of that as well. I think it comes down to whether or not it's enjoyable or not. Are you still having fun with it at the end of the day? It's meant to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, David's come back and also said that he likes to analyze after the fact. And again, I think it is about keeping those separate is the only way that you can balance them, because they work against each other if they coexist at the same time. You know, one's creative and is about building, and the other is more, well, criticism and perfectionism seems to be more about changing or stripping down. I think of it like as I don't know, like making a cake where you bake a cake, you put about all the things that you want in it, and then afterwards is when you level it off and you make it look neat and cover it all up and so on. You know, one bit's about putting the stuff in and getting the raw material in, and then the other is about the shaping and the perfectionism and does it look right, sound right, you know?
And exactly. I mean, and I suppose that analogy works. You can crop a cake and you can shape a cake to eventually and take stuff off to the point where there's no cake anymore. you know, and it's a trifle or something like that instead, because that's how cooking works, surely.
Follow us for more recipes.
Audionautic cooking every Thursday. But yeah, like, yes, so you have those two aspects. You have the creative aspect, and then you have the honing aspect of it. I think because we do have things which are overproduced. I think it's a trip hole that we all get into at some point, is the overproduction of things where things they lose their soul. There is a certain amount of soul that comes through. If we feel as, I'm going to get slightly existential here, but bear with me. If we feel as though the music in which we create is the expression of the universe in its truest form in that physical moment, right? And nothing else, right? It's the universe expressing itself through you, right? Which, if you want to join me for more hippie bullshit, you can catch me on my Instagram.
But it's a moment in time. It's a thing occurring, a moment in time, an accurate reflection of what was happening. You've captured something that you were intending to capture. Yeah, I agree, definitely. And I suppose that's what it's about. Is this the correct version of whatever it is that I'm doing?
Yes. Is this that's brilliant. Yes. Is this the correct version of what I'm doing? I mean, Frequency Control Center says it in a very good way. For some people, it's the joy of working in the icing and smoothing and the finishing. And for some, it's the spontaneous throwing together of the ingredients. Sorry. And that is an interesting one in its own right, because then I think I just got distracted by David's previous comment, because I think he says here, but to finish my point, when you look at it, bake a lot of cakes. Yes.
Yeah, that is very true, you know, because that's where you learn your balance, just by doing it a lot. Yeah.
I think with you learn a lot while you're doing it. And I think you tend to learn to let go a little bit of each track. You guys, this is not like this is just another track in inverted commas in rabbit ears, but it's more almost like, well, I think as well, when you learn more things like structure, and you learn things like timing and, you know, flow and things like that, I think it becomes a lot easier to kind of separate yourself from it. You say, okay, this is the moment in time that I was talking about then. I've since moved on to this other moment in time. I'll round that off so it's what it should be, and I'll move on a lot quicker. Does that, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as David Atley says, the growth is through the failure, consistency.
Mistakes are how we learn.
Yeah, happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. If you are taking a suitcase and hitting it in a toilet cubble to create a kick drum, that's always going to be there. And I think there's something beautiful in that in its own right. It doesn't have to be. We do live in a world, especially when it comes to things like bass music, we do live in a world where everything is very polished, everything's very quantized, everything's very to the point.
Yeah. That's something I struggled with a lot in the early days of trying to find my sound, is just not being too squeaky clean and sounding straight out of the packet, you know. Get a more weathered sound.
I want to emulate the soul.
And it'll be ongoing until I peg it, but yeah, that was definitely the problem first. Everything was just too squeaky clean and flat as a result.
There is something to be said for that, I think.
But sometimes you're only going to improve by moving on to the next thing. Now, there's a limit to how much you can squeeze out of each piece of work, you know, or each song, whatever. You know, there's a certain amount of growth you can do along the way, and you can balance things as best you can, but you're still going to get to the end of the process, and maybe it wasn't, you know, maybe it didn't work out perfectly, but, you know, that's the best version that you could make under those circumstances at that time. You do that and you just move on, you know.
I agree.
And accept that there is no perfection.
Perfection doesn't exist. We can all try, but I think that's the beauty of it. Everyone's a bit weird in their own way. I think it's wonderful. David says, great topic. Thank you very much indeed. Glad you enjoyed it.
Thanks for your input.
yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely to hear what everyone was thinking, where everyone was going. I personally love the round robins. It's my favorite part of the show. That's why I spend so much time doing it. So it's lovely to hear you are enjoying it, David. Yeah. If you've got any ideas for round robins, by the way, feel free to hit me up on Discord or on Twitter or whatever, because sometimes it is. I'm thinking now, I'm sitting there on Tuesday afternoon, like, what the fuck are we going to talk about this week?
But it's something we really enjoy. So, I mean, if you've had any aha moments, any oh no moments, you know, any learning along the way, or things that have occurred to you through either success or failure, let us know. We love talking about this stuff, and we like trying to get everyone else's thoughts on it as well.
Exactly. We are just a bunch of people, and there is a wider bunch of people who we love you. And so, yeah, we always want to hear more from you, always, without exception. So
how should they contact us, Curtis?
That's a good question. The best way to contact us is at Audionautic on either Instagram or on Twitter. We do have a Discord, which is great, growing Discord, which you can find the link to in the description. That's growing. There's places there. Come find us. Come say hi. We're a bunch of friendly people, I feel.
We sure are. Safe space, you know, from all those people who look at you blankly when you talk about EQing and compressing and that, and they're just, please go away. You know, you can talk to us instead.
Yeah, I always love talking shop. So yeah, that leaves us for now. That is the end that we got for. But I want to know, Ian Lake, what you got coming up in the next 7 days before I see your lovely face again.
Well, Saturday is gig day, and then you know the biggest build up to a relatively short set, and then nothing after. But there's a ton of bands for me to enjoy. So you know, and then I can talk to everyone. So I'm really looking forward to that. Beyond that, I've got some new musical projects kicking off that I'll begin to look at, some remixing and so on. So yeah, I'm going to start opening the tin on some other stuff while finishing off things. I want to try and turn that page over, you know, so get some new stuff going. Next step. How about you?
I get that.
We are live stream tonight.
Well, before you get on to me, well, I will be after this. Yeah. We are. It's 21:21 here. We'll finish up here, and I'll go live at about 10:30 my time, 9:30 UK time. Survey Channels wishes you luck. He says he wish he could be there. I think we all emulate that notion. Frequency Control Center says he's going to see you on Saturday. You lucky bastard!
And I will see you there. Yeah.
It's not too far for me anymore. I was considering it. I'd love to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great for you, man. It's going to be great. And he also thanks us for a great show as usual. It's really nice. We're one man down, so we're glad that you've enjoyed the show.
Yeah, regular listeners will notice that the old grumpy one wasn't able to join us this week. Regular listeners know that I'm the young, you know, positive, you know, sunny chap, and then there's this other American old fella who's a bit grumpy, but you know, he knows his onions. So yeah, we'd like to have him back next week, wouldn't we, for a bit more balance.
I think
out my boundless enthusiasm a bit.
Exactly. He's been sorely missed this week, but he's been working very hard. He's got a week on the beach. So we have to give him that on.
He should have hit the beach a long time ago, to be fair.
Yeah, he should have done. But he's got there. Survey Channel says Curtis is only a European train ride away. I'm just I mean, there's a body of water, but I'm hoping that they might do a European one. There's plenty of Where Fox for people in Europe. I know that Autumna, he's in Belgium, for example. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That could be a lot of fun.
I've gone to New York first.
Yes. Well, I can see why. It's great. It's going to be a show. Wouldn't mind doing something like that over here at some point for Audionautic. I think that'd be a really cool place to go. I think we just, need to have the drive and not be doing 50 trying to run a record label and a YouTube channel and everything else that we do. We'll get there. It's fine. Rome wasn't built in a day, you know. But yeah, Eolic, it's been lovely to sit and chat to you. Everyone in the chat, yeah. Don't then trains go underwater? Yes, technically they do. There's no excuse anymore. I might have to go buy some tickets. I'll have to see. Maybe if I save the money, maybe I could fly to New York. Maybe there's that. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, everybody, thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been a lovely show. Thank you ever so much. We love your input. We generally love hanging out with you every week. Yeah, enjoy it, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you all.
This is where I do that.